Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Tekken School series. Today we're going to talk about strings, which are a fairly annoying subject, especially for new players. Strings can be very oppressive, they can feel cheesy sometimes, and they do require some knowledge to deal with them, but there are good rules of thumb that you can kind of keep in your head in order to play against them better without actually knowing what the strings are and how to counter them specifically. So let's go over strings. Strings are generally a list of moves that have a specific starter. If you go to your move list, you'll see many like strings kind of like noted, right? It's like any of these kind of sequence of presses that are like these kind of chained attacks, right? You see how I did like 4-hit string. There are 2-hit strings as well that are usually pretty useful, and some 3-hit strings are also good. Strings can be guaranteed on normal hit, right? Like this 1-2 is guaranteed. If you hit the first one, the second one will connect. 1-2-4, for example, is not guaranteed, or like this is not guaranteed. There are things that are called counter hit strings, so you see how this is still not guaranteed. But for example, yeah, this string, for example, right, guaranteed on counter hit. On normal hit is not guaranteed. Sorry, yeah, like this. Yeah, strings can be really bothersome to deal with. Some common options from Nina are like this string, right? It's all guaranteed on counter hit. On normal hit is not guaranteed. The secret to this string is it's all highs and lows, so you can just duck the entire thing. Another common string is this one. It's also guaranteed on counter hit, right? Which is so scary, and it is also safe on the last hit. But the first 2 hits are low and high, so you're supposed to try and duck the first 2 hits, or duck the second one after you get hit by the first one and punish it. That's the hope, at least. You cannot interrupt it, you cannot power crush through it, don't try it. You can technically rage art through it, but sometimes even if you can rage art through it, you will die to the damage of the last hit. Last hit deals quite a bit of damage, right, as you can see. So yeah, just be careful when you play against it. It's good things to keep an eye out for. Either way, strings not only can be counter hit, they can also be delayable. So delayable strings, right? You see this how the strings look like when you just press them. Usually when you press strings, you just do it like a piano motion where you just like tap tap tap, right? You can see I'm like, if you look at the frame data on the left where it shows like how long it takes me to press everything, you see I'm pressing everything pretty fast. Like this, but you can also do something like this, right? You saw there was like a big delay there. This is called like delayable strings. Delayable strings can be very tricky. Usually not only are they delayable, but they usually have like an extra factor of why you delay it. As you can see, this is like a counter hit launcher, right? This is also like a knockdown mid, right, which is a counter hit launcher. So having these kind of like delayable strings is a nice trick up your sleeve. It could catch people off guard. Maybe people think you're about to like finish your turn with just these, and then you're gonna hit them with one of these. So it's good to use as part of your offense. If you are learning a character and you feel like, oh, I want to use some strings to capture my opponent, that's like a technique you could use, delaying your strings. If they are delayable, not all strings are delayable. Some strings you just have to commit to. For example, like this down for a 1-2. If I don't press it immediately, I'm trying to delay, but I'm not getting it, right? So either I do it immediately or it doesn't come out. So check which strings you have that are delayable. Maybe it means they have some counter hit properties. Maybe they have other properties that are good. There are also counter hit strings that are confirmable, or strings in general that are confirmable. For example, let me think. What would be a confirmable string for Nina? Yeah, this, for example. So you can see there's like a mid-high here. So on block it is safe, but of course people can duck the high. But if you look, this is how it looks like when I press it immediately, right? No much delay, but here, as you can see, there's a lot of delay, but I have a lot of time to confirm it. So this is a confirmable string. That's how it looks like. If you're a very strong player, you can sometimes confirm these kind of hits, which means you don't have to take as much risk of people ducking your high in case you do get blocked. As you can see, this move is safe on blocks. If you just throw this out, you'll be fine. If you get the hit, you can confirm. There are ways to practice these things. You can, if you remember in the practice mode video, I said you could set to random block, right? And if you get a hit, you try to confirm, right? So let's do a practice of that, right? Okay, so we got one confirm. Oh, and we fucked up this time. Right, of course I'm not a Nina player, so I'm not practiced in doing this for Nina. There are strings I confirm for other characters, I promise. I'm not that bad. Either way, yeah, so there are delayable strings, counter hit strings, and there are like the mix-up strings. As you saw, we have options. Let me kind of show this on the Brian side. So we're gonna do Brian's jab strings. So jab strings are usually the things you get from your 10-frame jabs. These strings are usually very powerful. You need to use them in your gameplay because jab strings are usually our 10-frame punishes and our ways to interrupt with our fastest options. So yeah, Brian has actually incredible jab strings. So as you can see, this is a high mid. So he has a mid ender. It is -6, which is not bad at all for a mid ender. It is also a counter hit launcher. And it is all guaranteed on counter hit. So as you can see on normal hit, if I get hit by the jabs, I can block the last one. On counter hit is all guaranteed. So a very nice jab string, super useful. He also has a mix-up for them with a kick here. The kick is -5. It is also a heat engager. So if you get hit by it, it's not feel nice at all. You can, of course, duck it and launch it, as you can do with other high enders. Brian even has a low ender for this string. The low takes quite a bit of time. It's not like an actual mix-up, because you can duck in time after you block the mid, right? Like this, but it's only -12. The low itself is +2, so it's not a bad low. It's a good way to check your opponent, see if they're awake, if they're reacting. So yeah, these kind of like string mixes could be very annoying. Here's another type of like string mix-up. You have two options, where one is the punch, which is a high, you're supposed to duck the punch, and one is the mid, and you're supposed to sidestep the mid. So let me kind of show. You don't do this on reaction. You just kind of have to hope you're right. You can just block, of course. On block, this is -7, the other hit is -12, but it's really hard to punish this, so usually you do not get a punish for it. So as you can see, if I try to step, I get hit by the high. Okay, I want to show the step, yeah, but I can launch him, and if I try to duck the high, right, I can launch it, but yeah, but you get hit by the mid. So there are mix-ups like that. Technically the risk reward is in your favor, not in the Brian favor, if you play it correctly. As you can see, like the step gives you a launch, the duck gives you a launch, he only gets a hit there. So I guess he gets like a launch on the high. So you can choose your bets against these kind of strings. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Let's show one more string situation. This is a mid string. It is -9. It is safe. This is pretty unique. Very strong string. So this string does have two follow-ups. One is a mid and one is right. One is a low. Right. The mid will knock you down, and the low is 0 on hit. So yeah, if you do block the entire string, do the mid, you can punish the high. Sorry, you can punish the mid. The low is just 0 on hit, doesn't do a lot of damage, so sometimes you just take the low and that's okay. Yeah, the string is pretty strong, I would say. I think it's a good string. Even if you just do the mid, that is safe. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you're playing Brian, or if you're playing against Brian, he does have this option. Either way, we learned kind of like what kinds of strings there are. We learned rules of thumb. If a string has a mid at the end, it's usually either punishable or very minus, which means the first thing you want to do is try to punish it with jabs, just to check. If you do get the hit, then it's probably punishable, and yeah, and then that means that next time you see it, you just punish it. If you don't get the hit, it means they can block, which means you can just take your turn with very confident like plus frames from the opponent's string. Right, let's say sorry, yeah, let's say he does that thing that you just did earlier, which is this thing. So first time I encounter it, a good way to deal with it is like, oh, he did this, let me check this. Oh, this doesn't say punish. So that means next time he does it, I'm just gonna take my turn, right? I'm just gonna use the mid, take my turn, see what happens, right? Or maybe I'll do it low, just like, you know, taking some damage off my opponent. All of them are like solid options. Okay, and for your offense, when you're using string, remember some strings are delayable, so don't always throw them out. Maybe bait the opponent's reaction. Remember to mix up your strings. If your opponent saw a high last time, he might try to duck, so maybe that's the time you want to use the mid. And be careful with using punishable strings. You don't want to put yourself in risk too much for not a good reward. Make sure you're doing it only if it's worth it. With that said, these are strings. Strings can be very annoying, as I said, but if you have the general rule of thumb where like you look for the weakness, where's the high you can duck, where's the mid you can interrupt or sidestep or punish, or if there's a low you can low parry. Like a super common string from Law, for example, is called Junkyard, and it has a low as the second hit, and you're supposed to low parry it in order to get out of the string. It does take time for people to do it, but once you do it, it really shuts down a very strong string from him. So it's good to do. It's good to have it in mind. With that said, this was the string video. If you have questions about strings or strings you want me to look into, you need help with, you can post them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.